Was Joseph Smith a pedophile? After all, wasn't Joseph sealed to Helen Mar Kimball at her father's request when she was just shy of 15 years old? Now, this subject has been dealt with by a bunch of others, including my good friend David Snell. Short answer, Joseph's sealing to Helen was almost certainly just a sealing to bind the Smith and
So are we almost certain, or are we certain? Because that's a big difference when you're talking about sex with a teen.
Kimball family and not a sexual marriage. However, I want to go a different route and ask a different question. Was Edgar Allan Poe a pedophile? Now, why would I ask that?
Ooh, pick me. I know why you want to ask that. Well, it's because it's going to help divert the issue. If Edgar Allan Poe is doing it, multiple guys were doing it back then, so it was kind of normal. But let's check that. As you can see here, it was not normal. Here's the normal ages, some little bit of data to help prove Jacob wrong.
You see, Edgar Allan Poe is one of the greatest poets of American history and lived at essentially the exact same time as Joseph Smith. Do you know how old Edgar Allan Poe's wife was when they got married in 1836? She was 13.
Oh, Jacob did not check that before posting it, because no, she was not 21. Let's look at some evidence.
And he was 27. Now, I am not here to endorse marriages between 27-year-olds and 13-year-olds, but it's interesting to note that his marriage was not some big public scandal. And while
It's also interesting to note, after doing some research on this, that they lied on the marriage certificate. So Edgar Allan Poe's wife was on paper 21 years old, not 13. So that makes you wonder, why did they not get any public scrutiny? Well, the public didn't know her actual age. They thought she was 21. Hmm.
13 certainly was young even for 1836, the reality is that in those days, in rural cultures, about 1 in every 10 to 15 marriages was to a woman in her mid-teens. And those young women were not marrying teenage men.
That's also an interesting fact, because no, it wasn't normal or common. Hence why Edgar Allan Poe lied on the marriage certificate, right?
They were marrying men who were established and could provide for them. Now, if all of this seems a little icky, I agree. The
It doesn't only seem icky, it is icky, which is why there's a lot of rationalization to make this okay.
past is a weird place, but it's important to remember the paradigm and sort of world our ancestors lived, something called presentism, which is where we look at the past not through the lens and circumstances of our ancestors, but through our modern lens. Now, again, I'm not here to defend every marriage in history.
I want to stay in the present time, but even when you go back in time, it's quite icky. That's why Edgar Allan Poe was lying about her age. That's why Joe Smith wasn't telling people about his plural marriages, because it's icky. And even back then, it was icky. It's not even today it's icky. It's back then it was icky too. So, when is it going to stop?